Hey, everybody, welcome back. Today is a special episode. We are actually on the road for our first on the road podcast with Embracing the Journey. I can't make this up. This has been just a huge opportunity for us and everything that we got going on. And we were lucky enough to do this at the American Licorice headquarters. So without further ado, I want to introduce somebody who's from Brownsville, Chicago, who owns 2 bakeries. He's just a community figure. He's done everything, and he's an awesome chef. I want to introduce you guys to Chef Blaque. Hey, my man, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? It is good. It's going really, really good. Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for coming in. I heard it was a long ride.
Look, it was a little bit of a journey, but I was able to take the scenic route, and all I could think about was, maybe eating some candy a little bit.
Hey, I'm not mad at you. So I read somewhere that you're living in Gary, Indiana.
Yes, yeah. So
wait, hold on. Don't try to slide by it.
Look,
isn't that where Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson is from Gary, Indiana.
I love it.
Yes. I actually live not too far from him. Probably maybe 14 or 15 blocks or so.
That's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. Yeah, I will say that I can definitely see all the character that he built in that tiny little home. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you see the movies, though?
I did see the movies.
One of my favorites.
Look, I love it.
Hey, so I did want to ask you something. So you're a chef, right? Mm-hmm. Who were you and what were you before all of that? Let's take me back.
Whoa. The journey begins. Who was I? Who am I, right?
Right.
Am I a chef?
We don't know.
Yeah, so actually I've done a lot of different things growing up in my life. I grew up in Chicago on the south side in Brownsville in a small little tiny subsidized apartment with the family. We kind of moved a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
I lived in Lepanto, Arkansas. I've lived in Osceola, Jonesboro. I've lived in Minnesota, and then we kind of got back to Chicago because the family was a little sick, and so we came back to be there. But yeah, we just grew up in a tight-knit family, about 10 of us, to a 3-bedroom apartment with my grandparents, and went to Donahue, right off of 39th and Cottage Grove. That's now owned by the University of Chicago.
So let me ask you this. So I've heard about the south side of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
What's your experience been like?
The South Side, all the things that you hear are true. All the things that you don't hear are also true.
Okay.
The South Side is a place that creates character. Now, I'll say that some of the stuff is exaggerated, right? It was a pretty dangerous, some people would call it dangerous neighborhood growing up, especially, walking. Luckily, my school was across the parking lot, but oftentimes I would still have to be dropped off at school.
Okay.
And my school is literally across the parking lot.
Man. So tell me where Chicago gets this name, Chirac.
Chicago really gets the name of Chirac because of the amount of violence that is portrayed. I think like every other city, it's violence that happens, but it's just what is exhibited, right? Now, with that being said, there's a lot of brotherhood and a lot of sense of community in those same neighborhoods that are often portrayed as just violent. And that's where it gets the name Chirac, because it's only identified as violent, but the other side of the story has never been portrayed.
Right.
I mean, look at me. I didn't choose guns in the streets.
Yeah. But if only thing you heard was what was on the media, you would associate that with what, everybody's dealing with, especially given the skin color you got.
Absolutely. I will definitely say that. Growing up in Chicago, it was not easy. Yeah, I've been pulled over several times as an adult there. I'm nervous. I've been trained how to deal with police officer traffic stops, or how to professionally address the blatant racism or systematic oppressions or stigmatic views that people have. People don't expect the little black kid from the south side of Chicago and subsidized housing to also get the full scholarship to go to Providence, St. Mel, Lake Forest Academy, Whitney Young, but then choose to go to Manly Career Academy, right? To stay home in the roots. They don't expect from that story to go from good to great, because that's not what's being shown.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you brought up some interesting stuff, and especially given the climate that we live in now, As a black adult, a black male, being pulled over by cops, and you spoke a little bit about racism.
Yes.
How do you manage to keep your dignity, to keep a level head, to control your temper, and still navigate these scary situations by being pulled over by officers?
Right, because it's really a process. It's not the same thing. It's not the same traffic stop. And not too long ago, a few weeks ago, I got stopped for running a stop sign that I'm pretty sure I've stopped and blew my horn at the person that was stopped in front of me.
Right.
And it was interesting because I ended up getting a ticket. I was nervous. But I knew that if I kept my calm, that I was less likely going to be arrested, right? I knew that I was an innocent person. I didn't have any speeding tickets. I don't have a criminal history or anything, but I do know that I was being pulled over for something that I inherently knew that was not true. And so for me, it threw up a red flag, and now I'm defensive. And because I'm viewed as a black man in America and what is being portrayed, it's a really interesting question, because even as you speak about it now, I'm getting like chill bumps and goosebumps because I'm like reliving it. As a black man in America, through like anger and things of that nature, I know what possibilities they are. You know, I have to try to speak in a way that's humbling to maintain the dignity, to be able to answer a question, because I'm already aggressive because I know that I didn't run a stop sign.
Of course.
I know that you pulled me over because you wasn't expecting to see I think a handsome young black man driving a nice clean Infiniti, you know? So, and now I'm here justifying my case, and now I'm late, right? Which is setting me up for a bad day, because now I'm late to the office, and now I have to explain to them why I'm late and have to deal with and/or comments and/or stigmatic views, right? Because we have a thing what some people would identify as CPT, right?
Color people time.
Yeah, color people time. For those people who didn't know, yeah. And I'm really an advocate for that. I don't like to hold people's time hostage, and I don't like to fall into those stigmatic views. But I also am not going to hyper extend myself to not be a normalized human.
Right. So we've spoken to a few African American males, and I've always wanted to ask this question, because I don't think that it's asked enough. Could you touch on what it's like when someone says the reason why you got out of that is because you acted white, or you talked white to the officer? What does that mean?
Hi, my name is Maurice Shelton. Let me over-enunciate and utilize all of the factions that were traditionally taught to me by a British American education system, and imply that in a way that is faceted to represent what I believe is a just behavior. That's what that means, to act white, or to do that, right? So when I speak, because I don't want to say down the street, or maybe I want a fruit salad and I don't say fruit, or maybe I enunciate and I don't add, or maybe I ask questions instead of ask them, right? Oftentimes, even growing up in school, I was perpetually teased by having to just wanted to know how to enunciate a word. Right, I'm just like, I don't understand what you're saying. And I think that now, having learned and having all of this experience with the world, it's really, 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 really important to just own your truth, man. Like yourself. Like if I could tell myself something before, I'm glad that I was the weird kid. I'm glad that I was the kid that was just like, I'm going to study. I know everybody's outside playing basketball. Sure, I'm over 6 foot. Yeah, I'm supposed to be a basketball player, right? Because it's basketball, it's music, right? Which I dabbled in music, right? Because those are the things. You get to be a basketball player. You get to be a musician, some type of creative, right? Which ultimately I am. Or you get to go work a corporate job. And if you didn't get those modalities, then if you're Barack Obama, you get to be the president. Otherwise, you may be one of the people he pardons.
For sure. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Different.
Strange.
Offbeat.
Visionary.
Genius.
Amazing.
What makes you different makes you great.
Embrace your punch.
Welcome back to Embracing Your Journey podcast. We're here with Maurice. Let's continue. So I want to talk about the four sections that you just brought up. The entertainment, right? The athlete, the president, and then the gangster, the felon, the criminal.
Absolutely.
So you had options, right? You had 4 different options.
I have 4 different options. Yeah.
Was it always, and I say this in the most respectful way, was it always an easy decision for you to stay on the straight and narrow?
Oh, no. It is not an easy. I'm able to quickly and swiftly answer that question. It is not an easy decision to stay on the straight and narrow at all. I think that because I'm experienced now, it's easier to continue to stay on the straight and narrow. But when you reflect on what the society is telling you what you should do and what's being glorified, you know, these large houses, this normalcy of hypermasculinity, how I'm supposed to be tough and not show any emotions, right? I can't get choked up. Otherwise, I'm not being masculine, and which is essentially associated with the feminine trait. But if we look back statistically at African-American households specifically, we know that a lot of fathers aren't present. So maybe I haven't learned those modalities. Maybe I haven't learned how to communicate those emotions. So now that I've gotten that experience, I'm learning now to consciously be on the straight and narrow. Right. Where I always wanted to just kind of escape the situation. Like, I'm going to do better. I got to change the situation. I want to go to the playground without them shooting, you know? So I want to change the situation. That was my motivation at first, but now it's a conscious decision.
I love it. So you being a community figure, you having the doors to your bakery and your pastry kitchen open to the public.
Yes.
You must come across a bunch of kids that you have like a mentoring relationship with. How do you deal with that? And also watching, hopefully not a lot, but some of these kids not take the traditional path of staying on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Interestingly enough, working with all different kids, inner city youth, people who are not in the city, suburban children, people who are of all different wealth and demographics, Black, white, Hispanic, even some Arabic people. It's been very interesting. It's been very, very, very interesting. A lot of times the children just want to talk.
Yeah.
Literally.
Talk because they're not being heard?
It's not even that they're talking to be heard. It's just that they want to talk because they haven't been able to express themselves, right? I grew up in a household that was a mixture of I told you so, and then when you ask why, it's because I said so, right? And I've learned that if you explain the reason behind why, then the child may still do it or they may not. But now they have an understanding, and now they're more equipped with making a better decision. And I just apply that same principle now. You know, people do inherently better when they know better. I don't think people inherently choose to be like evil, bad people. There are some few cases that it applied to, but with the same thing with these youth, they just want to talk to. I relate to them. I listen, right? I listen to hear, to absorb, to understand. I don't ever listen to respond. Now, if there is a response required, I do respond. And I respond understanding that the person trusted me to come and talk to me. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to hold you accountable. That just means that I'm going to reintegrate or reiterate what it is that you said to show I have an understanding. Thank you. And now let's have a real conversation.
For sure.
This is whether you're 7. This is whether you're my 16-year-old son. It doesn't matter.
I was going to say, you're speaking like a dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that being said, did you have both parents in the household growing up?
I did not. Growing up, I did not have both parents in the household. I remember specifically up until like the age of 6. And I remember being dropped off at George T. Donahue George T. Donahue Elementary School on 37th.
I was going to say high school.
Yeah, on 37th and Ellis. I think it was 3707 South Ellis. And I remember having on black pants and a purple silk shirt with like a little small afro and big old cheeks. And my dad took me to school for picture day. He told me he's going to pick me up. And I didn't see him until I introduced him into my son.
How many years was that?
I was maybe 7, and my son was probably 4 at the time.
Wow.
Yes.
Just for some quick math, you were 7. When did you have your son?
I had my son at 18 in 2007.
Okay. So 11 years later.
Yes, 11 years
Wow.
later. Yep.
So again, right? Statistically, it would have made sense for you to take the other path.
Oh, statistically, it would have made sense, especially with the lack of resources we had.
So growing up, because I come from a single parent background as well, do you feel that not having a father figure or a male figure in your life hurt your chances of success? Or let me ask you this before we answer that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been locked up before?
No, I did get arrested one time because my friend
Wait, hold on. How does that work?
But because he's a friend. That's why I started going by Blake. Right? Because I guess he was mad. He loaned out his car to somebody and called and filed a police report saying that it was like stolen, and got his car back because the friend didn't return the car in time. Never canceled the police report. We literally got pulled over. He was driving without a license. So we got like held in the police station for like 3 hours until his sister could go to his house and bring the driver's license. Yeah. So that was my stint.
So
Next week on the Embracing the Journey podcast.
I really think one of the biggest challenges of a minority owner, especially me being in my community, is really having to prove my concept in a way that I'm successful, even though I'm in the journey of creating the success. I didn't get to be the rebellious teenager because I was always trying to look for the next move to make sure that I wasn't subjected to that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we didn't know when we was going to eat.
think about what you just said. Sometimes we didn't have anything to eat, and now you own two things that
Two
provide
bakeries.
food.